Today I'm joined by Patricia Whatley, a licensed clinical social worker at our Athens and Oglethorpe offices. Patricia is a graduate at the University of Georgia and has been with MedLink since 2022, providing counseling and behavioral health services for patients ages 5 through 99. With her experience supporting individuals through life's changes, she's here to talk with us about anxiety and share practical coping skills that we can all use in our everyday lives. Patricia, to start us off, can you define anxiety?
I guess I'd have to say in general, anxiety is kind of an unhealthy hyper awareness of everything around you that makes you feel uncomfortable. That has a sense of like uncomfortable urgency to it. A feeling of not being in control of how you are able to handle whatever it is, the stimuli, I guess, that's coming at you. For example, social anxiety would basically be like, you go out, you want to be with your friends, and so you make plans to go out to dinner with them, but then you spend your time worrying about what's it going to be like, who's going to be there, what am I going to act like, are they going to like me, and then let's say you do go out with those people. Sometimes social anxiety can present and you are unable to carry on a natural kind of conversation with the people, or your thoughts turn to, I just want to go away, I want to leave, and you're basically not having fun. Anxiety in general is like a fight, flight, or freeze response, where you cannot just carry out the natural feelings that are associated with what you're trying to do.
And I can definitely relate to social anxiety on a personal level. For example, with something as simple as going out to eat, I often find myself overthinking it on the way there, practicing what I'm going to order, how I'm going to say it, running through the whole interaction in my head. And while that kind of practice helps a little, when it's finally my turn to order, I sometimes feel like I said it wrong, and then I end up replaying that moment over and over again. What are some coping mechanisms you recommend for situations like that?
It's always a good idea to, like you kind of said, to prepare. If let's go back to social anxiety, I just feel like it's a good example that a lot of people deal with. Bringing along, when they made fidget spinners and 2010 or whatever it was, whenever those kind of came about, or bringing, there's sensory things that you can do. So using your five senses. So before you go, picking out an outfit that would be comfortable on you, something that you feel comfortable in because of the fabric or because you think it looks nice on you. So that's a visual. Auditory, I personally love to jam out to music. And so that's my way of getting in the zone and talking myself into whatever it is I have to do. So listening to music, finding like a calm down song, something that you can listen to and breathe and regulate your breath and just kind of let it, flow through you and bring you comfort. Going to a place maybe where you can be familiar with your surroundings, get to a place early. And if you need to figure out what your surroundings are, I always like to find out where the exit door is in case I have to make an excuse to go and I can just bolt. I think it's really, really important, whether this is true or not. It's all about what the games that you play in your mind. And our minds do a lot to trick us and can be mean to us. But if we can play games with ourselves, pretend that everybody else at the table is going through something like this too, then it kind of helps the idea that maybe they're not judging you. Like, if that's part of your anxiety, that people are judging you, they're going to look at me because like they're all dressed up in this certain way and I'm dressed in this certain way. Our minds tend to, for some reason, be very mean and unkind to us sometimes and make us believe that we're not as worthy as we are. But when it's all said and done, I think we're just all feeling some form of that and trying to get through the day and keep our heads above water. So for some reason, and I'm not saying, other people's struggles are comforting, but it is kind of helpful. It kind of helps say, okay, I bet you they're not judging me. They're just trying to survive too.
For me, it helps to remind myself that most people aren't actually focused on what I'm saying the way I think they are. I'll sometimes replay a conversation in my head and think, why did I say it like that? But chances are no one else even noticed. It's usually just me overanalyzing.
Yeah, the truth is that most likely than not, when it comes to other people, they either care about you and want the best for you, or they don't care at all. And either way is fine.
My fiance often points out when he stutters and makes a big deal about it, but most of the time I don't even notice. I honestly don't care if he stutters or how he says something, it just doesn't matter to me. He's so self aware of it, but from my perspective, it's barely noticeable. I think a lot of people probably feel that way about things that we stress over ourselves.
Yeah, self-awareness is very important, I do believe. However, we tend to go way too far in that direction and become hyper self-aware, and we are the ones that are tripping ourselves up and giving us our own anxiety. Good example of this is that so I play music occasionally in a band that I was in for like 10 years. Not gonna
Okay.
mention names. The lead singer he got in this habit of doing this thing where if he missed lyrics or said lyrics wrong or fumbled on his guitar or something after the song, he would apologize to the audience. The audience had no idea. No idea. So in that case, he then has created that problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ignorance is bliss, silence is golden, just smile your way through stuff. And yeah. And then so then when we're talking more about generalized anxiety, it's just a kind of being on the edge more so. So let's say that a normal place to be internally would be at like a level 5, so halfway between depression and anxiety. So just feeling good, feeling calm, every time is being your friend. But being on edge means that you're above a 5, so you're like 6 to 10, and you feel like you're on edge, or you feel like you're worried about multiple things at once. And it causes like a lot of feelings of being overwhelmed, and anxiety and depression are kind of like best friends and royal enemies at the same time, because they can both easily trigger each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes anxiety can be about the way people think about things, and sometimes it can be a feeling. Um, and it looks different, it feels different for everybody, and there are different levels of it. And then there's different things that trigger anxiety. So for example, while this is a podcast about this, but I think it does help to go ahead and say I had anxiety about this podcast, and I could feel it, pretty much in my stomach, and my stomach felt tight. And I noticed that before I got on, I was fidgeting more. And then what I did was I said, okay, Trish, this is all anticipation of this. This isn't real. It's going to be fine. Tangela's not going to come
Come to
after
the
me.
screen.
Yeah, HR is not going to show up. And, so then what I did was I just took a couple of slow, deep breaths and drank water, walked around the office for a minute, and tried to settle myself before the interview.
That sounds like such a simple coping skill that was really effective. I love it. I can definitely relate because I had some anxiety myself about recording this episode. I kept telling myself, it's going to be fine. Patricia is great to talk to, the conversation will flow, and even if I stumble over my words, it's okay. Your energy really has this calming, reassuring vibe, and it made me feel like this would be a comfortable and easy conversation. That calming energy you bring really does make it easy to open up, and I think that's such a gift for your patients. But I imagine you didn't just wake up one day with that kind of confidence and perspective. Can you share a little bit about your own journey, what led you to seek therapy yourself, and eventually become a therapist?
Before I kind of became self-aware, started this process of going to school for therapy and going to a therapist myself and getting treatment for my own mental health stuff, I had no confidence, none. And I was almost terrified of everything. But I tell you, the most freeing thing in the world for me was realizing that I could only be exactly who I felt like I was on the inside, and everybody else was just going to have to deal with it. And one and once I had that realization, I started seeking therapy and then deciding to become a therapist. I have become this person that you're talking about. I can, I fake it a lot, but there's nothing wrong with faking it. You have to fight every day, multiple times a day when you have anxiety. And truth be told, listeners out there, if you didn't already know, I have anxiety. Um, and it is a daily fight. It's a multiple times during the day struggle. Um, and not everybody's always in the position to be able to be themselves, but that, for me, that was something I had to teach myself how to do. And as they say, let my freak flag fly. And the more that I can do that and just try to be myself, and realize that I, along with everybody else, makes 1.5 million mistakes a day. You just try to do your best and really listen in to yourself and your inner voice and your inner kid, and just try to, like, the most important thing for me actually was being able to practice controlled breathing. And so naturally, when I know I'm seconds away from this physiological response of getting anxious, something has clicked in my body where I can automatically take that first deep breath. And I think that that is huge. That's huge. Before a patient comes in, just get a couple of those. Whatever kind of, again, every situation to me every day is pretty stressful.
Can relate.
Yeah. Waking up in the morning, going to work. It's hard to do. It's hard, especially when one of the your depression monster or your anxiety monster decides it wants to show up that day and talk you out of doing everything. I one thing I've told my patients is to put a visual or a name or a face to your anxiety. What does it look like? Mine's this little purple little girl monster that sits on my shoulder. And whenever she's trying to come in and get in my business for the day, I just kind of tell her to get out of the way. And I kind of, it's almost like turning my anxiety into a physical being so that it's almost comical. I can physically tell her to shut up.
Yeah, I like
You're
that.
not coming today. Same thing with the little old depression guy over here. He's on my other shoulder. And I'm usually talking to them all day long.
It's definitely
And again, this is another thing that sounds crazy and weird, but the more you can get comfortable with being crazy and weird and doing extreme things that are healthy, because I will create 20 anxiety monsters and depression monsters before I ever think about drinking my anxiety away or engaging in other unhealthy behaviors that can hurt me. This doesn't hurt anybody.
I agree with that. It's definitely better. I think even if you're a child, like to kind of learn those things, like it might be a monster, but it can't be scary and you have more control over it
Yeah.
if you create it yourself. Thank you for tuning in to the MedLink Health Connections podcast. We hope you found today's episode informative and inspiring. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical concerns. Stay connected with us on social media and visit our website at medlinkga.org for more resources and updates. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.